Hey, so a lot of you have been asking to see an update of the stuff that's fruiting up here in the orchard. Today is your lucky day. We're gonna do a summer fruiting tour up here. Let's get busy. Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. If you're like me, it's hard to imagine that those little stumps and sticks that we put into the ground will ever grow up into anything that looks like this, lush, green, productive, and yet it's possible for the average backyard grower. And so in this video, what I want to do is walk through and show you some of the things that are on the tree, the fruit that's ripening, the stuff that's coming up. We'll talk a little bit about successive ripening. And I'd love for you, even right now before the video continues, to tell me in the comments below, what is your favorite summer fruit? I wonder if we've got any of those varieties in here. So put that down so I can check it out. All right, let's get on to the first one. The first one that I have is what's called the Arctic Star Nectarine. And these are totally ripening up. This is a early sub-acid white flesh nectarine, hence the Arctic Star. And this tree is just loaded with them this year. We built these bird bozos, I'm calling them, to try to keep the birds away. And it's actually done a lot better job than not having them last year. We still have some sort of damage. Some of it's rodent damage up there. They've been nibbling at stuff. I feel like the birds and the rodents work together. The birds come and peck it, and then the rodents come and do some worse. So that looks like rodent damage. But aside from that, look at all of this crop over here. Now, the reason we've been able to get such nice large fruit this year is because we did a good job thinning our fruit. And so that's something, there's a video you can check out on it. This one looks like it's mostly ripe here. Something to consider with backyard fruit, and one thing that's good about it is that even if it's got a blemish like this, I can either cut it out or eat around it, so not a big deal for the backyard grower. Man, this is not even fully ripe, and it is so sweet. Sweeter than you could even get at the store. Could soften up a little bit, that'll make it runny, but man, the sugar is already there. This is really tasty. Look at this thing. So one nice thing, and the reason why we plant these trees close like this is because we want to have a few varieties in the space where there would normally just be a single tree. So you can't see it, but if I squat down here, you'll notice some other trunks down there. This is our Arctic Star Nectarine, there's our Arctic Glow Nectarine, and then on the other side in the back there is our Double Delight Nectarine. And so we're able to get an entire season of fruit as opposed to just, a couple of weeks of fruit. So next to this Arctic Star Nectarine, for example, is our Saturn Donut Peach. This is going to be one of the next ones to ripen. And the Saturn Donut Peach is going to be ready right after the Arctic Star is. And so this kind of method is really beneficial because rather than having one Arctic Star that gives us 500 fruit at one time, we're able to get maybe 50, 100 fruit off of that tree right now, then come down next to it. This Donut Peach had some breakage, so there's a little less productivity, but it's still loaded with fruit. I had to thin a ton off of here. And so this will enable us to then, once that's done in a couple of weeks, this will be on and we'll be able to have a couple of weeks of fruit off of it. Let's take a look at this thing, super tasty. The Saturn Donut Peach is a sub-acid white fleshed peach, and it's called the Donut Peach because it's shaped like a donut, squat like that. And once this ripens up, these are gonna be really tasty. Kind of has like an almondish flavor a little bit, very, very mild. But tasty and a sweet fruit, and looking forward to this thing ripening up for us. But you can see it's loaded with fruit. I thinned it a little bit late, and so we're not getting some of the nice fruit size. But then you can see right next to this Saturn peach, this donut peach, is this beautiful Spice Z necta plum. And this necta plum is gorgeous both for the foliage, which is this kind of ornamental reddish thing, but it also has this amazing fruit that's nectarine and plum parentage. And this tree is absolutely loaded. This is one of my favorite fruit, both because of how it looks and also how it tastes. It's very, very sweet, very flavorful without being overwhelming. So just a really tasty piece of fruit, and we're gonna have a gigantic load of it this year. As we come around to this other side, we see our mid-pride peach, and this has a bunch of fruit that's also growing in it. Loaded, loaded. I've thinned this out, and the peach sizes are getting bigger and bigger with each day. So this should be ready, I don't actually remember the harvest date, but maybe sometime in later July. This thing had some really significant breakage, probably 2-3 main scaffolding branches broke because of how much fruit was on there. So a good reminder, continue to thin that fruit on your trees, not only for larger fruit size, but also to avoid what happened here. I ended up with a main scaffolding branch broken off here, as well as one on the other side, and which for this already small tree kind of set it back a couple years. But we've got some good new growth coming out. So this is a later season nectarine here. This is a yellow flesh nectarine, Double Delight, and you can see that the interior here is loaded with a bunch of fruit just waiting to ripen up. Next to it, we have this Arctic Glow nectarine, which is a white flesh nectarine, and this has very little fruit in it. And a big reason is because we had to cut back a bunch of the foliage, a bunch of the branches, and also this suffered really heavily from peach leaf curl last year, and so we had to cut a lot of stuff off. Sprayed it with a fungicide this year, and you can see that the foliage looks really, really healthy and really good. So we're looking forward to a good, healthy crop of fruit next year. This is our 3-in-1 fig planting, and it looks pretty sorry right now, and that's because it is. It's been just decimated by all of the dirt that we've had from that construction down there, and yet it still is producing some fruit. So this Janus Cadota fig, for example, you see all these fig that are popping out here, which is really amazing. And this little tree is going to give us probably 10, 15 fruit straight away. That's our black mission fig right there. And that thing isn't really as productive this year. It's lost a bit of foliage. So we've had some watering inconsistency up here because the sprinkler line was messed up. Hence putting in a new manifold and new drip lines. Here is our tiger stripe fig, our panache fig. And so you see a bunch of little figs emerging throughout this thing. And these are really tasty. This is a lot of fun. I don't know if you can see as we look closely, this thing already even now has these little tiger stripes on it. This is a really fun and tasty fig. Oh, here's one that I'm really excited about. This is a fairly new tree for us, and this is our giant Fuyu persimmon. And this Fuyu persimmon has fruit on it, really for the first time for us. We had a little bit of fruit when it was very first planted, but had to take those off to support that rooting growth and the scaffold branches, putting its energy into that. But we've got a solid fruit set on this thing this year. With some of these trees, it's important to know and see when and what type of wood that they're fruiting on. In other words, do they grow fruit on a branch that grew last year, or is it on a branch that grew this year? Because that's going to affect how you prune your trees and what kind of wood you leave on, or whether or not you remove more wood in order to give it a chance to grow that fruiting wood. And so I discovered that persimmon fruits on this year's growth. So all of those new shoots that came out are the ones that are setting fruit. And I'm so excited. Persimmon, this Fuyu, is not astringent. It doesn't give you that banana peel taste on your mouth. Just very sweet. You can eat it when it's crunchy. You can eat it when it's soft. I'm excited to share this one with the family. One of our family favorites up here in the orchard are the Jujube. I've talked about these many times and recommend them. This is our lead Jujube, and it has set tons of fruit. It has these beautiful little tiny flowers that when they first burst open smell almost like Jolly Ranchers or something. Really kind of a fruity, nice smell. Reminds me of candy. Maybe that's why I like it. But Jujube itself, the fruit itself, tastes like candy, which is why we love it. They're small, about this big. They're sometimes called a Chinese date. And the Jujube is fun because pests don't really nail them for us, and really only my kids do. So it's a lot of fun to grow this super hardy tree. And we have two of them planted. We have the lead Jujube, which was the first one. It's self-fruitful, so you can plant it by itself. And then we have our long Jujube. Long. I know it's L-A-N-G, but a whole other story on the pronunciation. And this thing is doing really well. We added it just as a little stump, and it has grown. It's taken up its own space and has a ton of flowers on it, and it's going to fruit for us this year as well. So this Jujube is a fall fruit. So this is going to be ready sometime maybe in September. So that's the nice thing about all of this successive ripening, is that you start with stuff that's early varieties into mid varieties, and then stuff that goes into later varieties. And so as you plan your orchard out, that's something to consider as well, having a long season of fruit. Now in the heat and in this inconsistent watering, this looks like kind of a sorry sight. Our poor boysenberries, which have just felt and been a little bit neglected, but they're not going to be next year. I'm going to be really good about them next year. Even though they don't have a ton of foliage, and even though they've been struggling this year, we still have a ton of fruit on here. We've been able to make a pie. There's a ton that the kids have come out and eaten. And there's even right now a ton of ripe boysenberries. This is our first berry. It really starts getting ripe in late May, solidly through June, and a little bit in the beginning of July, which is where it's picked up by our triple crown blackberries, which are just flowering right now and just setting fruit. So it's nice again to have that successive ripening even on this one berry trellis. You can tell when these blackberries are ripe when these drupioles are nice and swollen and bubbly. And for a boysenberry especially, you want to make sure that it's very dark. Honestly, the darker the boysenberry, the better it's going to be. Jammy, it's flavorful, it's sweet, but it also has a little bit of tart that I like so much. Next to our berry trellis is our 4-in-1 pear. And this is our multi-grafted tree, and this has 4 different type of pear that are grafted on it. And so each limb coming off of the main trunk is producing a different kind of pear. And you can see that most evidently here between the Bartlett and the red Bartlett. You see this regular Bartlett pear up here coming off of that fruiting wood. And then down here is the red Bartlett, which is loaded for this little tree with a bunch of fruit. The Comus pear and the dwarf Flemish have a little bit of fruit. See some back there. I had to cut off a bunch of foliage off of one of those because of fire blight, which is a bacterial disease that can come in here and kill the entire tree. So that's kind of a bummer when that sort of thing happens, but overall productive and happy with this 4-in-1. Next to it is our now 3-in-1 Pluerry planting. This is our candy heart Pluerry. Pluerry is a unique type of fruit. It's a mix between a plum and a cherry. And so what they do is they cross-pollinate them, they plant the seed and see what kind of fruit comes out of it. And these plum cherry, these Pluerry hybrids are really tasty. They're kind of a smallish fruit, but very, very sweet and something that you can actually munch into as opposed to a cherry, which is like half a bite. This one will actually be, the size of maybe like a golf ball or a racquetball if they grow pretty big. Just added this flavor punch Pluerry yesterday, planted it. And so hoping for some more cross-pollination and even a longer harvest season out of this trio. Okay, next to it, I want to show you something that is knocking my socks off this year. This next to it is our newly planted cotton candy aprium. This thing, we just planted, I think this is maybe its 3rd year in the ground, and it has gotten so much fruit on it. I was blown away when I came out here. And it's a little misleading sometimes with these fruit. You can't quite tell when they're green how many fruit are on the tree, but this has an amazing fruit set this year, and they're tasty as well. They're ripening up. You see a couple have already fallen on the ground, which seems like apricot do. They just start dropping their fruit right about the time they're ready. And so I'm gonna taste one of these. Wow, aprium, that's interesting. It's hard to describe the flavor. It's not 100% apricot, and it's a little bit plummy, but it's definitely a unique flavor. I like it. This is good. If you like the softer apricot texture, this has totally got that. Something doing so awesome here year after year is this flavor grenade pluot. Man, this gets so loaded down with fruit. I come through and thin it, and it just always wants to set this super heavy crop. So I'm removing this immature fruit just to lighten the load on these branches a little bit. It's always a bummer to do that, but I'd rather lose a couple of fruit than lose an entire branch. Look how weighed down this thing probably with 3 or 4 pounds of fruit. These things are pretty juicy, pretty water packed, and therefore they end up getting a little bit heavy. But this one is so wonderful. The fruit on here, it's good when it's green and a little bit immature, and then it can hang on here for about 6 weeks and ends up being really tasty throughout that entire thing, getting sweeter and sweeter, more developed fruit, but always crunchy, always tasty. If you're gonna plant a single pluot in your orchard, I recommend the Flavor Grenade Pluot. It needs a compatible pollinator like the Santa Rosa plum, which is planted right over there, but this thing is a consistent producer year over year, gives us a ton of fruit, long hang time. I can't recommend it highly enough. I love this tree. All right, I'm at our back corner over here and we're gonna do rapid fire. I've got 3 of them here that I wanna show you. First off are my pomegranate. I love these Parfianca pomegranate. This fruit, if you're gonna plant one pomegranate, you want it to be Parfianca. Mild seeds, excellent flavor, totally worth planting if you're just gonna plant one. I know the Wonderful variety is the main one that usually is planted, but this Parfianca is really, really exceptional. I love it very much. Over here is our dragon fruit, our condor dragon fruit, and it's set a couple of fruit this year. Got pollinated, and so we're looking forward to those ripening up, being ready, and then ready to eat. Anyway, excited about that dragon fruit. And then finally, let's take a look back here at what we've got going on along our entire fence, and that is our passion fruit. You've seen this be one of the heroes of the orchard. We planted just a single vine on one side, a single vine on this side, and it has performed so well. It's covered up the entire fence just like that, and then it has fruited insanely. And so this has really been a hero. If you want an edible backdrop against your orchard or garden and you've got some stuff for this to climb on, passion fruit is, and something that's edible, passion fruit totally gets my vote. I'm so happy with how this has turned out. Wanted to show you stuff that is ready or on its way to being ready. There's plenty of stuff that is going to be ready later, or maybe I'll do a fall fruit tour and see how these things are progressing. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of The Busy Gardener, where we looked through a bunch of these different things in the orchard, did this orchard tour. Which of these was the most interesting to you? Are you growing any of these? I'd be curious to see what you've got growing on in your orchard or garden. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, and whether you've got one fruit tree ripening in your orchard or garden or 500, until next time, stay busy.